Hi, welcome to Musicians on the Record. This is the show where we're getting the musician's story. This is David Ward. So psyched to be with you. And these guys, if you haven't seen them yet, check it out on the YouTube. Not sure what that was, but we are with People's Front
I think it's a gig. I think somebody got a gig.
Yeah, I wish.
We are with People's Front of Zeppelin today from the YouTube channel. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hi, hey, David.
We are definitely worldwide today, and we've got Chicago in the house, Brooklyn in the house, and Croatia in the house. Is that right?
That's right.
So I know George, because George and I have had a chance to interview before. George, let me ask you to MC a little bit, introduce the band as well as yourself, and let's start with how you guys even got started here.
Well, on guitar up there in the top right, that's Ivan Jakic, and immediately below him in the Brady Bunch panel is Pete Echenike from Brooklyn, New York. And we all basically met through the YouTubes.
Yeah.
Ivan reached out to me when I was doing my videos for Bonzology and offered to record some parts to one of the drum tracks.
Sorry, George, we did Achilles Last Stand, I think was the first one.
That was your first connection?
Which was kind of incredible and impressive because of all, Zeppelin songs for some stranger guitarist to approach me about. I thought, wow, really? Achilles, that's pretty ambitious. Okay, let me hear it. And I was blown away. So that's how we ended up getting together. And then I met Pete in New York a few months, I think it was, later through a mutual.
No, actually, I think his Achilles was what we had done. Like we had met in like February, I think, or something of last year, and then I started recording the bass tracks to your drum tracks, and then I don't know, maybe did Ivan record to that?
Actually, the track I recorded too was the one from Pete's channel, the one that had the bass and the drums.
Ah, okay.
I
know that.
Do you remember what that was, Pete?
It was Achilles.
Achilles.
It was Achilles. Yeah. It was Achilles. Yeah, because I've been following George on YouTube for a while, and then I think George mentioned somewhere on his channel that there was a guy who does overdubs with the bass on a few. So I went to Pete's channel and I saw Achilles. So I said, well, maybe I could, do a few guitars. It ended up around, I think, 18 different tracks of guitars. Yeah.
It's incredible.
I wanted to do it, as close to the original as I could.
I think I think you guys are nailing it. It's pretty cool. So for those of you who are watching live or in the replay, let us know where you're watching from in the world. We got Brooklyn, Croatia, and Chicago in the house. We're in the MOTR Studios in Portland, Maine. And ask your questions for People's Front of Zeppelin. Now, this was another project, or at least it was another name that you guys had initially. That's up to you whether you want to say it or not. How did the People's Front of Zeppelin... How did the People's Front of Zeppelin get there?
Well, I think it. I can start with that because I think it started with me chronologically. I mean, yeah. So I got an email. It's been a while now, maybe a year. I'm not exactly sure. From a guy, John Cunningham, said that he wanted to revive sort of Zeppelin tribute project he had maybe some 10 years ago. And he was looking for members. And he wanted me and my friend, who was a singer at our band at the time, to be sort of a part. And the singer couldn't do it, so I said that I would do it, and my first sort of audition tape was actually the Achilles that I did, just for fun.
Yeah.
So I got in, and then I told him about George, who told him about Pete, and that's sort of the gist of it. That's long story short.
And so this was Virtual Zeppelin for a little while, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did the change or the name change come about, guys?
George, you want to take this?
I'm sorry for the distraction, but I was trying to find the chat on YouTube, and I actually just found it now.
Okay.
Because I wanted to be able to see what we're doing.
You bet.
Well, I mean, basically, the three of us just decided to start our own thing. I mean, even though it was pretty much a collective project, we just wanted to do things differently than Virtual Zeppelin had done things in the past, and also in a more timely manner. We kind of felt like eager to get things out a little quicker than they've been coming out. So really, that's about all there is to it. The three of us, pretty much came together independently of Virtual Zeppelin. So kind of like we joined in some ways together and we left together.
Right.
And as far as the name goes, maybe Pete can explain how we set
take it,
the name, because we did a lot of bantering back and forth about a name.
Yeah, we had a whole bunch of names where we were trying to figure out, and we just couldn't. We didn't like. We couldn't all agree on one, and then we were just having a Skype chat one day, and then we just started joking around with Monty Python stuff, and then both Ivan and I just kind of popped out with People's Friend of Zeppelin basically at the same time, and Ivan was like, "Well, that has to be the name, doesn't it?" And I was like, "Well, yeah."
So most people seem to dig it. Somebody recently said, "You guys are about Zeppelin. You're not about Monty Python. You should change your name." But Zeppelin were big Python fans, and we kind of like the facetiousness of the name. So
exactly, yeah, definitely. Zeppelin and the Beatles were big Python fans, so I think it fits. I want to play a video of you guys, and we'll see if you guys can see this, or we'll make sure you can hear it. You guys are just smoking on all of these tracks, but we're going to see if you can identify this one. And whoever's doing your editing, I think it might be you, Pete.
Yeah.
Fantastic job.
Oh, thanks.
You see the screen and what's playing right now. There's just a time lag.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a delay.
Almost a minute. Yeah.
Oh, almost a minute. Wow.
Yeah, like at least 30 seconds.
Got it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, do we talk through the process?
Go for it.
Oh, okay.
Go for it.
Okay.
What guitar are you playing, Ivan?
Right now.
Everyone wants to know what that 12-string is.
That's a very cheap Chinese-made UK brand, actually called Revelation. It's a knockoff of Fender Electric 12, which is a mid-60s model, I think. It works very well. I was actually quite surprised that, I got lucky. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about yourselves. George, I know you, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but Ivan and Pete, tell me a little bit about your stories, how you guys got started as musicians, and when your love of Zeppelin began.
Go ahead, Ivan.
Okay, well, my first real introduction to Zeppelin was, I've known of them, but the first real introduction was the Page and Plant concert they did in 1998 in Zagreb, which actually I think their first and last show on that tour was Zagreb, the capital of Croatia, which is somewhat strange to do two shows in the same town and not one after the other, the beginning and the end of the tour. Yeah.
Hmm.
So apparently they liked it because during that time, you know, Croatia was just out of the war and people were really hungry for, you know, just concerts and stuff. So they burned the house down, and I remember spending the night in my brother's apartment at that time, hearing 10 Years Gone for the first time, the whole Physical Graffiti album for the first time. I was 14 years old at the time, so. And after that show, that's how it basically started. I started getting, you know, original CDs, albums, and was playing guitar already at that point. So of course, you know, getting to learn on the licks, trying to figure out what Page did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think you got it. I mean, nobody just slings on the guitar. I got a guitar back there. I can't sling that on and start playing Jimmy Page. You've clearly done your hours, 10,000 hours there. When did
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
I started playing really early, when I was like 8. So, but honestly, you know, when you start playing at 8, it's not very that serious. It's just, you know, it's fun. But then I got lucky, and I got into a good band when I was 15, and I've been a part of that band for 20 years.
Oh, wow. What's the name of the band?
It's Gruhak.
Gruhak. Mm.
Yeah. We still have a YouTube channel. We did some tours. We did from Ukraine, England, Germany, recorded an album in the States 2 years ago. But, you know, long story short, our singer had cancer. He didn't make it, so we're done, basically.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear about your loss. So,
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. But this seems like another project. I want to make sure people know that they can ask questions, join in the comments. We've got Terry Keating from Bonzolium. He's here with us. People are asking, will you guys ever come to Florida? Well, ever play live? Might this work into a live situation?
Book us a tour.
Yeah,
we'll do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it. It's like we're happy to go wherever if you know, somebody.
I think we just got 1,000 subscribers today on YouTube, so another 499,000. I think we'll probably get enough to get them back.
Yeah,
congratulations on that. That's great, Rob. Rob, the time.
Oh, so Terry's out there.
Yes.
He said we need a PFOZ sugar daddy.
Right. Yeah.
So that's true, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry to everybody also who tuned in right at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
And we were just a little bit late. We were kind of
technical difficulties.
Technical difficulties. It's not always easy. Yeah.
It looks like a lot of people have tuned in now. That's great.
Yes. Rob the timekeeper is saying if you guys come down to Florida, you can stay at his house.
That'll cut to our cost.
I think Ivan has been down to Florida and did some recording.
Yeah. We were there for a month recording.
Wow.
Tavares, Florida.
Okay.
Somewhere near Orlando. Don't ask me exactly where I am.
Okay. All right. Pete, tell us a little bit about you and your musical inclinations, and when did you fall in love with Zeppelin?
Let's see. So I started off playing trumpet, in school, and I was doing that for a long time. And then at one point, I think I was in sophomore year of high school. I actually discovered Zeppelin then, and it was just like it blew me away. The sound was incredible. I couldn't believe it, and I asked for a bass guitar for Christmas, and the trumpet went out the window. And so that was, it was basically, all Zeppelin all the time after that.
Yeah.
And, and since then I've done different things around the city basically, but I'm currently playing in a band with my wife and having a good time with that. But as far as me, I've just been playing locally, and I did some Zeppelin cover bands, original bands, and various other musical things like that. Just try to branch out as much as possible.
Sure. Okay. And are you also doing the editing on all of these videos?
Yes, I'm the director.
Yeah.
We're in PFAS video headquarters right here.
He's the Tarantino of PFAS.
I'm more of a Truffaut, Kurosawa approach that I'm bringing to the vids.
But all jokes aside, we're actually pretty lucky that we can have at least some know-how to record everything ourselves, mix everything ourselves, and edit the videos.
Yes.
So we don't have to outsource.
Right.
The basic work.
Yeah. I mean, speaking from a personal perspective, for me, it was probably the most challenging. These guys have had more experience recording themselves, I think, and then also just the fact that with guitars you can go directly digital. You don't have to deal too much with with setting up mics around a drum set. I didn't have any previous experience with that other than being recorded myself, and I just kind of picked up by osmosis over the years, like watching how engineers mic my drums and just say, oh, okay, maybe a couple overheads.
Right.
And then as time went on, it was like the guys were like, yeah, maybe we should do multi-tracks for bass and snare drum too, just to get a little more options, in terms of balancing out the sound. But it's been a real process of trial and error. But I think all in all, we get a pretty good sound considering we're doing all this stuff in-house. And I also just want to say, I think Pete has done an incredible job getting a handle on this film editing software. Within a couple weeks, it was like, oh yeah, I think I can do that. And then he started putting out these videos that looked great, and I just thought, man, this is great. We don't need to hire someone or depend on some young kid or student or something who'll do it for free. I mean, I like the fact that we can produce all of this stuff, at least at this point, ourselves.
Yes. Yeah, great job, Pete.
I just want to mention also somebody. So I'm looking at the chat.
Yes. Got a bunch of stuff.
Somebody said that they want us to cover Carousel Alhambra. That's actually going to be in the works. We've talked about doing it, and we're probably not going to do like an album replication. Actually, probably no keyboards at all. We're talking about doing something a little different with it, more of a personalized.
We were talking trying to get some guitars to sound in the ballpark of a synth, but
I don't know. I think it might be better just raw. This is like a lot of what we do is have chats like this where we just kind of figure out what are we doing, how are we going to approach a song, and this is right here we're in the kitchen, just trying to figure out like how are we going to approach something like Carousel Alhambra. It's going to be a lot of fun. Yes. So but like making our own arrangement, and I think I kind of like the idea of an arrangement where it's more guitar oriented than keyboard and a little rawer, like how that would sound. And Ivan will have a lot of work trying to figure out like what parts to highlight from both guitar and keys.
Oh, I got used to it for PFOZ. Having a lot of work, especially when we do the studio stuff.
Right now, he's got a project he can tell you about. He's kind of busy with a new studio, and so that's
well, it's not related to PFOZ, but just in short, a few guys we opened up a studio, have a nice big room, and we're recording some local bands and stuff, and doing our own stuff. So I'm very happy doing it. I'm learning a lot, learning how to record, how to mix, how to whatever. It's all in the spirit of rock and roll and music anyway, so it's great.
Right.
Yeah.
So one of the things I love about your performances is the way that you're not just doing it note for note, which the band didn't either. I mean, they have the studio recordings, but when they played live, they riffed on things, they improvised it. How do you guys? How do you decide some of those things of whether you're going to play it studio version or not?
Well, in general, we're trying to, I think, not do studio versions so much.
Yeah.
And try to take more of a live approach. And so if we're going to do something like Song of Me is the Same, like we did,
yes,
or Immigrant, you listen to a bunch of bootlegs and some of the live releases and try and there's certain key, like signature riffs or licks that happen within a solo or within the bass line or a fill that Bonzo would do. And you want to like try and include those so that there's like little touchstones in the music that people who are familiar with the bootlegs will say, oh yeah, that sounds right. And then also leave some room for you to do your own thing in the middle of it. It's kind of in the style of it, but just to have a little creative element in it and all that as well. Because Zeppelin is all about the creativity.
Right. Yeah, I just want to say that, what Pete said about that, I think if you're familiar with the bootlegs, then you're really familiar with Zeppelin, because that's what Zeppelin was. The way they played live, they were a very honest band. In some ways, I mean, as great as all the studio albums are, it's, to me, like the real Zeppelin is the whole package, the live performances and everything, all the brilliant studio production of Jimmy Page, of course. But when they were live, there was a different element happening. There was a lot of improvisation. I think in some ways that really eclipsed, what happened in the studio, because in the studio it's Page's game pretty much, with the production. But live, Page is a one-man show, and so much was on his shoulders as far as the performances. But Bonzo and John Paul Jones contributed so much because they didn't play those parts just like they were playing the studio version most of the time. Yes. Most of the time they were stretching out so much they were almost like a different band live. Right. So if you're a fan of Zeppelin and like a real fan, a hardcore fan, you're a hardcore fan of the bootlegs. I mean, despite the fact that oftentimes, they were kind of sloppy live, and different eras were not as precise, in some of the singing and playing. But as far as like the emotional content and that improvisatory spirit, that's what we're trying to achieve. The only problem I feel personally is we're not in the same room. Yeah. We're not in a stage. Yeah. We're not in front of thousands of adoring fans.
We're not in the same continent.
Sometimes I have to say, I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant now, but sometimes we get comments from people, and they say stuff like, oh yeah, you didn't do this or you didn't do that, or something about the groove, or what. It's like, we're actually doing this in 3 different places in the world. I don't know if sometimes people realize that. We're not in the same room. Right. And it's hard enough to just lay down a beat and then have somebody 1,000 miles away add a bass part to it that actually sounds pretty good and grooves, let alone now it's like spontaneous improvisation. So, and then Ivan's got to come in there and he's got to play like he's on a stage in front of an audience and just whip off some, just like shoot some fire. Right.
And I'm in my bedroom.
I have to say, I think it's pretty incredible that Ivan does what he does,
no
man.
Question. No question.
I mean, George doesn't really pay any attention to the comments, though, so it's...
Yeah, you can tell.
Yeah, I mean, the amazing thing is you guys have actually never physically met, right? This is all online.
No.
Pete and I have met, and we actually jammed once a couple months ago. We finally were able to play together in New York.
Yeah, that was great.
New York with some gigs, and we hung out. So yeah, Pete and I have gotten together like twice since we've known each other. But Ivan, we have yet to make that trip, and I would rather go to Croatia and hang out on the beach than have him come to Chicago in winter and show him around.
Right.
Yeah, I don't want to go to Chicago in winter either.
There's an open invitation.
There you go. Yeah. So it's hard enough to groove in person, let alone online, right? There's no question. You guys just also put out a video just recently on what your process is of how you lay down these tracks. George, you usually start?
Yeah. So I start, and I think I did I just put a video or something out? I don't even remember. I think it was an Instagram post.
Okay. But
I just described how usually I start by playing a song. Like Pete said, our aim is to do live versions, above all. I mean, we're going to do some studio covers, like we did the Rover. We might do, I don't know what at this point. But in some ways it's more fun and I think interesting to play as though we're playing live the way Zeppelin played. So if, for example, like the version that we did of the song remains the same, leading into Sick Again, which is how they would open their 1977 tour. You know, I've listened to so many bootlegs, and I know, and I just, over all these years, I mean, I'm old. I'm like 52 years old. Does anyone know that? Can you tell? I know I look like I'm 30. But I'm 50-something. So, you know, I've been listening to Zeppelin intensely since I was 11. So, you know, I mean, I know these songs, most of them, they're just like hardwired in the synapses in my brain. So I sit down at the drums and I just kind of play the song in my head. Now, some songs are more complicated. It's kind of hard to keep the form. But that's basically what I do, and it's just kind of like a visualization technique. I visualize the song, the bass parts, the guitar, plants, vocals, while I'm playing, and then I just throw in fills and licks that are Bonham-esque, I like to call it. You know, things that it's basically derivative. I'm playing stuff that he played or a slight variation of a lick that he played in a place where he would likely have played it on that version. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes.
So when that track is done, then Pete, who also has a lot of references from listening to Zeppelin for so many years, is like, oh yeah, this sounds like, you know, Badge Holders, or this sounds like a 75 style. And we do talk about some of this stuff too. And then Pete throws down some bass parts. Like I think we did before we even started the band, Pete was recording some videos playing bass to Celebration Day.
Right.
And he ended up doing like a 71 style Celebration Day. Then I think he did at least 2 or 3 maybe, right?
I did 71 and 73. So
Okay.
Like 71 is more blues rock and 73 is more funk.
Yeah, exactly. And see, I love that. And immediately, like, I knew, I was like, this guy is the guy. Yeah. He knows the difference, the subtle differences that are there in the way John Paul Jones played with Bonham.
Yes.
You know, and also Pete's the greatest because he's got a deep affinity for blues and funk, soul, and R&B, which is, I think, what you need to have if you're going to attempt to play like John Paul Jones.
Yeah, well, he was like the British James Jamerson when he
yes. Totally
was in the studio scene. That was his
Jamerson
deal.
of rock. The way he plays melodic bass lines and the way he grooves with the bass drum, and you know, that's why he was always watching Bonham. If you look at any of those videos, he's always glued to Bonham, and he wanted to be right next to Bonham. Right. So, anyway,
yes.
Let's take a couple of what's that?
Moving right along.
Let's take a couple of comments. There was somebody back here that mentioned that Bonham and Bon Scott of AC/DC used to hang out. Have you guys ever heard that story? I've not. I wouldn't doubt it, but
I don't recall that. No, but it's, you know, possible. They both like to have tea, so that makes sense.
A spot of tea once in a while, yeah?
A spot of tea.
Right.
Sorry to all you British folks out there.
Yeah, we won't start that. I'll go into my bad British accents, and it'll be horrible for everybody. So let's play another clip. I want to play another clip of you guys just rocking. And if you don't know who these guys are, it's the People's Front of Zeppelin. And they are not to be...
Not the Zeppelin People's Front.
That's right, exactly. Not to confuse that with anything like that.
Not those splitters.
Speaking about bad British accents, so let's go. You did the Rover a while ago, a little recently. Let's do that. It's going to come up in a second.
That's one of, if not the only studio versions we've done.
Okay, got it. And Pete, I don't know where you got this blimp from, but it looks great. When you're beginning of the videos here.
Thank you. It's,
Pete, I never noticed you walking a limp. So I just want to say, when I do studio versions, I do play along to the song.
Yeah. You're not playing to a click, though, I imagine, George, or are you?
No. I mean, I play to the song, and then so at least that way I'm playing it pretty much exactly in tempo with the original recording for studio version.
Yes.
Not for live stuff.
Correct.
Yeah, all I gotta say is about the Rover is that maybe a year ago I was a complete purist, concerning how to record the guitar. You have to have an amp and you have to have a stack of Marshalls and whatever. But when I managed to get this sound out of the Helix that I use, the processor, from that moment on, I was a believer that digital can sound just as good as the old analog equipment.
Absolutely.
Because I'm just hearing it now through my headphones, and then I didn't hear it for a while.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, wow, this sounds pretty good.
And this looks like Pete, a Fender P bass as well.
No, it's a jazz.
It's a jazz bass. Got it.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Thanks.
And a Les Paul, Ivan?
Yeah, that's Les Paul. It's currently completely gutted. I'm trying to rewire it to the Jimmy Page wiring, which is tough as hell to do.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah, so yeah.
But you're going back and forth between the Les Paul and the Fender on this one, I just noticed as well.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure what Page used in the studio exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you can hear it, it's obvious. Sometimes there's no way knowing. So I just, went with my gut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's looking like, I don't know what your environment is that you're recording this and playing it in, but it's looking like it's a black background except a light on your hand and the instruments. You're wearing black clothing.
I'm sitting at the exact same place I am now. I have a black backdrop behind.
Got it.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And I don't, record my face, which is not a bad thing. Yeah.
Same with you as well, Pete?
Yeah, I mean, basically here, I put a backdrop over here, and then in the videos, I just kind of, the way it's fit. What's going on at the Gong Show is about to happen.
Do it.
No, keep going.
The camera captures it like the whole vid is like farther away, and I do these extreme graphic guitar porn close-ups to highlight specific sections in whatever's going on.
Yes. Now, George,
I'm dying to do this.
Yes, I know.
Okay, all right, enough of that. This is where I record.
Yeah, and I love the angle that. Go ahead.
It's a small little basement room. I want to say something about Pete and Ivan. The way they, do the layout. It's so cool. You got the video on here still, I think. It almost appears as though the guitar and the hands are floating.
Yes.
In this. Yeah. Sea of blackness in space or something.
Right.
So, personally, I really like that look, and I don't want to change that, at all. I wish I could get that kind of effect here, but that's a little harder to do.
Well, one of the things I like about the angle that you chose was that I can see, obviously, what you're playing with your hands, but with your foot as well, which is so important for Bonzo fans. Talk about that and how you decided to do it that way, because angle is not always there.
Well, okay, so I realize a lot of our viewers are either musicians or like super hardcore instrumentalist fans, and I got a lot of requests to have a foot cam or whatever, and I've started to record with my phone. I set my phone up down below under the snare drum, and then can get a little foot cam action, for tunes where I guess it's worth having it, but
like Good Times or something
that I use because you can pretty much see everything.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't like about it is depending on how high up the camera is, the more I guess the more of a bird's eye view you get, the less you get a sense of the the distance of the strokes, and somebody had an interesting comment. They said, I like this angle except for the fact you can't see the ghosting as well. And that's true. Like if you're right, on a side angle, you see all the stuff the left hand is doing. Because like with Bonzo, the drummers out there will appreciate this. A lot of what he played, there was a lot of ghosting going on in a lot of his parts throughout the beats. It's not like his left hand is just hitting 2 and 4 most of the time. Yeah. So if you're into that, it's helpful to see the ghosting, but you don't really get a feel for it as much when the camera's up here. And I tried one like directly over. I think it was Achilles' Last Stand that we did, and the camera was directly over. And it may not look like it, but I'm kind of beating the shit out of the drums at times. I mean, I'm hitting them hard, but you don't get a sense for that because you don't see the relationship of this from above. You just see this like, it's like up and down and up and down. So I don't know. I'm still kind of experimenting with different viewpoints.
And maybe
that's cool. That's what's fun about this. We're kind of discovering things as we go along. Sure. It's got its own little evolution. Somebody had asked if getting a singer is a priority in the chat queue. And I thought I should answer that, or we should answer that. Yes. Do you guys want to talk about that? Because I'm not in any hurry to get a singer.
Neither am I.
No. Kind of like it like this.
Yeah, it's easy to work with these guys. You throw another person in, it's going to be that much more complicated.
That's one of the points. Yeah. What? So that's one point is that it's easier to work with 3 people instead of 4. But like we started, we wanted to get a singer, but we had trouble finding one. And then when we decided to do instrumental stuff, the concept in our heads just sort of changed. We just figured, well, why not just do this instead of having a singer? Because I don't think anybody else is doing strictly instrumental versions.
I haven't seen it. Yeah. And the thing is, if they are, I haven't seen anything that's on the level of what we're doing, frankly.
And also, I like not having a singer because the singer, kind of covers up a lot of the musical nuances. It's just, Zeppelin's music is like surprisingly nuanced. That if you're just thinking of just bashing away and screaming and everything, and there's a whole lot of things going on. And,
sorry guys, there was just one comment that I really agree with. Rob the Timekeeper said, if you get another member, make it a keyboard player, not a singer, which is exactly what we wanted to do, because a lot of Zepp stuff have keys. Yes. And we had George's friend who was a guest on Trampled Underfoot, which was great, but we want to be able to do quarter and
Since I've Been Loving You,
Since I've Been Loving You, a lot of organ stuff, blues stuff. So a keyboard player.
So we're recruiting right now. If you play keys, send your videos to George, Yvonne, and Pete. Right. So what are the?
The truth is, I've got a couple people I can kind of lean on around here, and maybe I don't know. Yvonne has some colleagues in Dubrovnik.
They could all pitch in, do a song or something, but it would be great if we found like a dude from the Philippines plays a mean organ and he's a Zepp freak and he wants to do it, so we're really international.
Right.
That would be fantastic.
Well, another thing about being singerless is so much of Zeppelin's music is gratifying to listen to on its own. The guitar parts, the bass, the drums, of course. I mean, every instrumentalist is an icon. Right. So whatever we're trying to but whatever we're trying to, pay honor to by doing these covers, I think it's in some ways it's better without a vocalist, like Pete said, because then you don't have that distraction of the vocals there. And oftentimes the distraction is pretty damn great if it's not a great singer.
Right.
You know,
Right.
It gets really fucking distracting when the singer is not happening.
Right.
So, you know, I mean, it would be great to do some of these songs with a really killing singer, because then it would most certainly make us maybe more viable in terms of commercial, you know. I know that the casual fan, or even, you know, like a dedicated Zeppelin fan, but they're not really like a musician.
They're Plant fans.
They want to hear the song, you know. They want to hear the whole song. They want to hear the lyrics. But I don't know. I mean, for now, I'm just enjoying focusing on the, and also it's not just focusing on the way they did things in the studio. It's about live interaction, the spirit of Zeppelin being like, kind of take no prisoners and just go for it, you know. And I hope we can capture some of that in a bottle of being in 3 different places.
Yeah, and someone's voting for Terry Keating for vocals, so he'll he hopes he passes the audition. I'll vote for him. But you know what we're talking
for,
right? What we're talking about
you know what? Honestly, if Terry wants to do a song, I'm for it.
You're up for it. Okay.
Come on, Terry.
Yeah, we'll give him a backdrop, a nice microphone.
All black, just his head.
Terry's on this chat.
The floating head.
Yes.
Well, you know, really what we're talking about is because the singer in the original band, Robert Plant, is so good, he's really hard to replicate. And unless I've heard some...
Daryl says, dub Plant's vocals on top of PFOZ.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Right. Just say it's a guy named Oscar or Eugene.
From the Philippines, right? Yeah, there you go. No question. Yeah, but unless it's spot on, it can be distracting, which is the great thing about what you guys are doing.
And voices are so unique, you know.
I gotta give a shout out to my high school buddy George. He just joined in.
Nice.
What's up, George?
Voices are so unique that it's so identifiable. That's so hard to get someone to do it and not sound like it's off in some way.
Yeah.
You know, if everything else is spot on or whatever. Right. So
yeah, what do you say we play another video? Because I want to see you guys play more here. I think this was the yeah, go ahead, George.
I was just going to say there's a video, you started playing it before, but I thought it was pretty cool what Ivan did on Nobody's Fault But Mine.
Want me to play that again?
Harmonica player. And this is just like a kind of a good example of the versatility, or adaptability that we hopefully can.
Well, and
the unfortunateness, is that a word even, of not finding a harmonica player.
Right. No question. That's right.
We make do.
Plant played harmonica. Yeah. So this is just the teaser. I'm not sure I have the full video. This one's just the teaser of the Nobody's Fault But Mine. Let's play it though.
Way to forward to the harmonica solo?
I think if he's got the teaser, it's not there.
Oh, no. Yeah, it has to be the PFOZ official release.
Yeah, I'd have to get that.
Can't be that splitter bonzology.
Right. No, I'd have to get that, actually. Don't have that in the tank. Let's take a couple of comments, actually, because there's a lot of folks in the chat. People are just saying you guys nailed it.
Yeah, I've been trying to answer some of them while I'm sitting here, but
yeah, which ones, George?
I look like I'm distracted and uninterested, so I better focus.
No, you're doing fine. You're doing fine. People are volunteering to sing. Terry said his tux is at the cleaner, so I guess he can't do it. But there are a bunch of votes. There are a bunch of votes for Terry in here for the singing. So,
by popular demand.
I almost considered, like, what if we did a sing-along? That was the premise for the concerts. Like, we do live shows.
There we go.
Pass out.
Follow the bouncing blimp.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's perfect.
There we go. That's awesome. Perfect. A lot of people are just saying they're happy you don't have a singer.
I would.
All right.
I would be, honestly. I mean, you know, hey, I love Robert Plant, but sometimes I don't. Mm. And especially live. Come on, let's be honest.
Okay, Pete, one guy wants to know, what's that black bass?
Oh, that's a Dean Edge 8-string.
There you go, Alan.
Yeah, let's talk about your instruments, specifically of what you guys are playing. Pete, any other basses in the mix, or is that the one?
No, I also have an alembic that I had made for me a long time ago. Okay. So I use that on like the 77 style tracks.
Yeah.
What's that?
That's a special one, man.
It's a special one. It's got the LEDs and all that kind of thing. But yeah,
LED.
Yeah. That way I can play in the dark, I suppose. But so those are my main things. I also have a fretless. I have a 5-string fretless that I'll use whenever I get around to it in my time of dying.
Okay, excellent. Yvonne, how about you?
Yeah, there are basically 3 guitars in the PF4. Guitars in the PFOZ video. One is the 12-string I already mentioned, which is like a novelty thing, you know, where I need a 12-string. That's it. The main ones are a Les Paul Standard, basically. Les Paul Standard faded. All the Gibson guys will know this. They made them for me, I think, only 3 years. And incredible Les Pauls for the money. And the one is a Telecaster, that it's a custom made by a Croatian, you know, builder. It's just a regular Telecaster. It's just built very well. Yeah. And the 4th one is early 70s Les Paul Custom, which actually I sold recently. Oh. Because the other one is a much better guitar. So I didn't need 2 Les Pauls, and that's basically it.
Okay. And George, how about for you? Can you describe your kit?
Me?
You still with us, George? Yeah. I'll try to handle the chat. You just relax.
I'm trying to. Okay.
Yeah.
Just trying to be a good citizen.
You just be a guest.
George is very eager.
Yeah.
A little too eager. Well, I did a video actually for the Bonzology channel where I do like a little drum set tour. Yeah. So, for those interested in more detail, they can check that out. Just look through my videos. It's a tour of this kit, which is basically a 1971 era Ludwig thermal gloss maple, 26 10x14, 16/16, and a 18/16. So Bonham sizes, basically. Not the Bonham size tom for that maple kit, but Bonham sizes. Mm-hmm. And it's an old 402 Supraphonic snare from the 60s, a la Bonham. And then I've got a mix of a bunch of different vintage cymbals, mostly Paiste, Giant Beat. I have a whole set of 2002s except for a 24. I have a new 24. I actually just got it right here. It's a newer reissue, black stamp. And that's about it. I got some Paiste 602s, which I believe Bonham played kind of early on as well. And then I got a whole bunch of other stuff that's completely unrelated. All my jazz gear. Yeah. You know, small bass drums, Gretsch, 18-inch, 20, 12, 14, old K Zildjians. So I got a bunch of stuff. But for the videos, mostly I use this kit. I also have a Ludwig Gold Sparkle kit that's a 24, 13, 16, 18, which I believe Bonzo had one on order. That's at least the story that's out there for the 1980 U.S. tour. Yeah. And I don't know if that kit was ever shipped off or if it was going to meet him in the States here or what in the fall of 1980. But Yeah, so Terry just ordered one of those. Same size, 24, 13, 16, 18. I think he's going to do a second unboxing soon.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, somebody had just mentioned in the chat, were Zeppelin recording or planning on a new album before Bonzo died in 1980?
They were, as far as I know.
Not that I know of.
Okay. Well, I think they talked about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've read quotes where like the next album's going to go back to like more of a rocking thing after.
Yeah, right. That's what I meant.
The outdoor,
heavier. Yeah.
But they had just put out Into the Outdoor, so I don't think there were any rush to put out another album. It wasn't like in 69, 70, 71. They're just churning albums out like crazy.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any evidence at all of rehearsals for new tunes for a new record, though.
Right.
No.
Well, they were still had some stuff in the can, like Midnight Moonlight, which came out by The Firm. Jimmy had written that, previously.
Yeah, they had Fire and but stuff from In Through the Outdoor sessions, I believe, mostly.
Yes. Somebody was asking about the gong behind you as well, Alan Hojaboom.
Oh, Alan.
Yeah.
It's a Paiste gong. It's a Paiste Mars 32-inch Mars gong. Symphonic. Yeah.
And somebody also mentioned in the chat about the Speed King. You're playing a Speed King pedal as well?
No, it's there's some drummers out there. It's a Camco.
It's a Camco?
I know it's not a bass player asking about my bass. Yeah. It's a Camco chain drive, like the old Camco, chain drive. Pretty simple, basic pedal. But I also have a couple Speed Kings that are actually in the process of being refurbished. I'm waiting for them to come back.
Okay, got it. Excellent. So what's some of the plan for you guys as far as you've already put out a few, you've got a number of videos growing. And for folks, if you haven't seen these guys, the videos, go to their YouTube channel, People's Front of Zeppelin. What's next on the list as far as the recording, and then what are the tunes I'm talking about?
Well, George just recorded a bunch of tracks, I guess about 8 songs. Most of our stuff that we've done so far has been for, Zeppelin 3 on. We haven't really done too much with the first 2 albums. Okay. So we're going to get into the early Zeppelin. Yeah. And some of the things that were maybe only one-offs on BBC. Mm-hmm. So Girl I Love Has Got Long Black Wavy Hair. Yeah. Kind of, those are early blues numbers.
Sure.
That's one of your favorites, David.
It is. The one I asked you to cover. So. You did a great job.
Yeah, so that era we're going to get into. And then, we have our sort of our what do you call it? The -1? Like the Aebersold kind of
music -1,
right? Music -1. So we're subtracting a track from a video, and you can play along. If you're a guitarist or a drummer or a bassist.
That's great.
That's in the mix.
Yes.
Well, we should talk about that because that's related to the Patreon account now.
Yeah. So we want folks to subscribe on YouTube, The People's Front of Zeppelin, and you also just opened up your Patreon page. Tell us about that. Where can folks go to see that?
Well, it's People's Front of Zeppelin, patreon.com, People's Front of Zeppelin, and there's 3 tiers. The first one is GA. You're in the show. The second one, that's $1. The second one is for $3. You get to be a badge holder, and we'll be posting little videos of us, behind the scenes, how we make the videos and things like that, and how we record. And then for $5, you can be a golden god, and that's where the music -1 would be.
Oh. Only $5.
Well, I can boost it up.
That should be like $10,000 for a golden god.
Well, golden gods are cheap these days. I don't know.
But if people want to see you guys go on the road and play live, this is one of the ways you do it. I mean, you need to have the funds, the resources to go out there, right?
Yeah. Sure. I mean, we're just getting started. We just started this in January, February, and. The fact that we have a Patreon account now, it may help us to
buy some coffee.
Yeah, right. To stay awake.
That's right. Coffee for the road, man.
No, but seriously, with the Patreon thing, I think that'll be of interest, especially to musicians who want to play along, play some of these songs. I mean, I would have loved to have had something like this when I was coming up, learning to play my instrument, right, and have access to it so easily. Like a bass player can just tune in, and if you join up on the Patreon account, you're going to have Ivan and myself playing, and you just play your bass part along to Sick Again or whatever. And I think that's going to be a really cool part of it. There's also maybe going to be some demos on there. We'll break down some grooves. Pete will show some, similarities between JPJ and some other great bass.
Motown and whatever. Yeah.
That's great.
Funk.
And
we'll probably also make, sorry Dave, some, rig rundowns, exact, equipment that we use, the exact, Oh my God, well, I'm Croatian, so sorry for my brilliant English. So sometimes my brain just does something. Also, can I just mention, just to go back on what we were planning on doing next, and I think that of course, all the songs that the guys mentioned, but the big one is probably gonna be the 73 Days and Confused. Which we're gonna try to make it as long as we can with the whole thing, and that's gonna take a while. A lot of, I think, planning before we actually.
Yeah, because we're not gonna do just a cover of like a note for note of the song remains the same version. We're gonna try and bring in some other things from different versions of Days to make it, a little more of our own thing, I suppose.
That's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's clear that all of us, if we wanted to, can replicate the recordings, fairly close. I mean, no one's gonna ever get, and I don't even really see the point in trying to replicate exactly. It's a good way to learn how to play, but there's an element of I don't know how to say this, but it's almost like you don't want to stand still, and at our age, I mean, we're not 16, 18, 22 even, we're all professional musicians in our own right. So in my point of view, now that we've come together and we're doing this, I think it's a little ridiculous of us to try to play live versions exactly the way they were played, learn the solos. I mean, I know a lot of the live, especially Song Remains the Same. I know the parts pretty well. Yeah. And if somebody said, hey, can you play the live version of No Quarter from July 28th, 1973, which is in fact mostly what makes up the one in the soundtrack. Yeah. It's like, yeah, sure, I can do it, and I have done it for my own channel, and it's more of like an educational thing. But what we're going to try to do, if we do No Quarter, not 73 style, we're going to do it 73 style, which means now it's like they've influenced us so much, and we love their music so much, but we want to play it with the spirit of their style, and musicality.
Sure.
So that's why, Dazed and Confused, I think it's going to be a challenge, because we're going to map out, there's so many options. Pete was talking about, there's this cool stuff they do in 71, and then in 72, how they kick into Walter's Walk, or they kick into the Crunch, and then in 73 they go into James Brown kind of groove, and so there's a lot of options to kind of sort through, but we're gonna attempt to put our own thing.
And maybe I even will do a a little video of him walking around in Dubrovnik for the bow solo,
right?
And we can
climbing the city walls.
Yeah, so we got to have you looking out at the ocean and
no doubt.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know if there's any Game of Thrones fans watching the podcast right now.
It's such a small show. I don't know if anybody.
It's a very small show. Yeah, regional. Anyway, Dubrovnik is King's Landing. It was shot. We actually.
Wow.
had a small duo gig in the old town during the war, and the whole male cast from Game of Thrones was, and they were, it was sort of cool. Well, they were cool. We were like, holy shit, what would you now? What do I do now? Nothing, just play your song, Do some Floyd stuff. Okay, yeah.
All right.
That would be
Hey,
fantastic.
I got a message from Linda White, and she says she's offering to pay the first 100 for Ivan's airfare.
Okay, thank you, Linda. I got 100 down then.
Someone else is offering another 100.
There we go.
Okay, 200.
That's a.
Do I hear 300? Let's keep it going, right?
You should hold an auction.
Right.
Yeah.
Go to patreon.com, People's Front of Zeppelin, and let's make this thing happen. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea, Ivan. You got to go up on the Game of Thrones. You guys could win the throne. How is your bow work? Have you been practicing that?
Yeah, we did already a studio version of Dazed and Confused for Virtual Zeppelin. Did that thing ever come out?
No,
guys?
we never used that.
Yeah. And how many more times? So I did use the bow. It's tricky. I bought the wrong bow. That's the one part. I bought a violin bow. It should have been a cello. And that I figured out just later. But it works. It makes a drone sound and fucks up my strings every time. But it's worth it. Yeah.
You know what? Those two versions, by the way, those were pretty much exact versions. So
that's kind of why I didn't do anything with it.
Note for note. That was dead on.
Wow.
yeah.
It's insane. Yeah, we got to do that. And will you guys be doing like a bass cam is that already out, or maybe that's a part of the Patreon, a bass cam or a guitar cam?
Well, we have that up on the YouTube already.
You do. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, people need to know that, I think sometimes when people are on YouTube, they don't realize there's playlists, so if you go to someone's channel, like your channel, for example, you go to Musicians on the Record, there's the homepage, then there's the videos page, which has a chronological list of all the videos. Then there's some others, favorites and blah, blah, but there's playlists. So Pete did a very thorough house and organized all of the playlists. It's great. I mean, like you can go there and there's a bass cam playlist, there's a drum cam playlist.
That's fantastic.
And more and more of these videos are going to be coming out.
And also making we set up a 1971 playlist, a 75 playlist, so like we can put those songs in say concert order or something.
I love that. That's fantastic. Let's talk a little bit about favorite. I won't ask you to pick one, but a couple favorite Zeppelin tunes that you love, and maybe what are the ones, even though it doesn't look like you're challenged in playing them at all, what are the most challenging ones for you guys?
Dazed and Confused is what got me started playing bass in the first place. So that one, it's just a monster. And the Lemon Song, of course. Any of those. I mean, Jones is so Motowny on all those lines, and it's just so lyrical, and those are always fun to play. But for me, the hardest one is Achilles, because it's just all right hand. It's almost like chicken scratch bass, like you're playing rhythm guitar, and I don't know. I either have like a little carpal tunnel or something, but my hand tends to go numb halfway through it. So I got to fight through to the end. But it's that one's definitely it's 10 minutes of attack.
Right, it's amazing. Right, that's awesome. How about for you, Ivan?
Favorite. Okay, well, this is a very subjective thing, right?
Yes.
So it's 10 Years Gone still. Okay. Because of the whole situation I explained back before the show and stuff. So if I have to pick one, that's it. The hardest one, I'm not sure. They're all really hard. I mean, to a degree, not that hard technically, but Page is a very strange animal as a guitar player. I always found it much easier playing Ritchie Blackmore than Page, even though Ritchie is much faster and But with Richie Blackmore, it's very clear what he plays. You know, you can hear it. Okay, so he plays that, so you practice for 2 days and then you can play the part. But for Page, it was, I don't know. Well, Achilles was tough getting all the guitar parts down. And his acoustic stuff is not so easy.
Yes.
Also, he's a very clean acoustic guitar player. Not a lot of guys acknowledge him as an acoustic player, but he was a great acoustic player.
That video of him where he plays White Summer and Black Mountainside on the acoustic, on Julie Felix show. If anyone hasn't seen that, you got to see that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely. How about you, George? Some favorites and most challenging?
I always have a hard time when people ask me about favorites because I like it all. When it's somebody Bonham's my favorite. So then it's kind of hard to narrow down within a favorite who had a career spanning, 11 years or so and 10 albums and countless bootlegs. And it's really hard. But I think No Quarter may be my favorite performance of theirs, from The Song Remains the Same. I know that is high on a lot of people's lists. That's definitely when I first heard it, that's what completely mesmerized me about Zeppelin. My dad took me to see The Song Remains the Same, and I was, I think, 10 years old, 10 or 11. And I was enjoying the whole thing, but when that started, and then the dry ice and everything and the intro, and then when Bonham comes in and goes, right there, and the lights come up, man, I still get goosebumps, so that version and Page's solo on that version is just incredible. Like what Ivan was saying about Page's playing, I could totally see where that his phrasing is way over the bar, maybe non-musicians don't understand what that means, but it refers to phrasing in a way that's not real symmetrical to the time. So you've got the beat like this, and it's da 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 da. Page plays his lines so loosely, like a jazz musician in a lot of ways, like a horn player. It's a very free-flowing kind of way of thinking. If you listen to George Benson, you hear that kind of thing all the time. But a lot of rock guitarists don't have that sensibility. They're very much about subdivisions of 8th notes, 16th notes, 32nd notes, triplets, and that's it, So I think because I grew up listening to jazz, that as soon as I heard Zeppelin, I just latched onto a lot of things about them that even though they're not jazz musicians, there's a sensibility about the feel, the swing in the drums, the phrasing of the guitar lines. So, yeah, No Quarter, and Since I've Been Loving You, the live version also. Those are some of my favorites. It's just so hard to pick. Right. 10 Years Gone might be my favorite studio recording of theirs. But I think it's just such a brilliant song all around.
In My Time of Dying is just ridiculous in the studio. Right. And then the live versions, I can go on forever about which live version.
Yeah. If we go down that rabbit hole, we just can't every song they ever did.
Another 4 hours.
One of my favorite. I think one of my favorite moments ever in Zeppelin-dom is on Custard Pie as the song is coming to an end. Boom. And Bonham whomps those two floor tom hits. And that's not hard fill or anything, but it's the way he does it. And the truth is, that kind of stuff can be a lot harder than the technically demanding stuff because it's about timing and feeling. And, that's the stuff I don't think to this day, maybe it's close some days, but closer than others, but that was him. That's like his signature, the way he walked or talked, his voice. To me, that's what he brought out of his instrument is so monumental because it's so unique and personalized. It's not always about the technique. That's right. And he said that, right. Even though for a guy who said it wasn't about the technique, it's more about the feeling. There's a famous quote, you probably know it, to that effect. But I thought it's easy for him to say because the guy had these incredible hands, too.
Right, exactly.
It's just, legendary. So the hardest song to play is probably still Good Times, Bad Times. Right. And ironically, it's the very first song that anyone heard. Right. on the debut record. That's incredible at 19 years old or 20 years old. Let's see, what was he? He was 20. 20 years old, he recorded that.
Yep.
You know.
But there's a lot of songs. I think one of my favorite John Bonham studio recording is actually Night Flight.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Another
you know, how the drums sound, every single fill is absolutely where it's supposed to be. And very underrated song.
I agree. Yeah. Let's do that one.
Yeah, sure. We can do it like
when my studio version. You know, I mean, we could.
You guys can just do it right now if you want, right?
Yeah. There we go.
There we go, George. Yeah.
We should do it. That's a good idea. Yeah.
All right. So, folks.
This is PFZ at work here.
Right.
Brainstorm on the spot.
That's right. Expect Night Flight coming to your YouTube channel soon. It's People's Front of Zeppelin. Go to their YouTube channel, subscribe, and go to their Patreon page, People's Front of Zeppelin. Let's see if there's any more questions in the chat. You guys want to cover anything else as well?
Oh, yeah. I think we were talking about branching out a bit, doing like songs from other bands and just to why not, you know?
Why not? Who else would you do?
Well, I'd kind of like to do the Real Me. That'd be fun.
The Who. Oh yeah.
Who, absolutely.
And someone posted up a Sabbath tune and, you know, request for a Sabbath song.
Yeah, which one was it? Was it the drum feature, right?
Fairies Wear Boots.
Yeah. Right.
Fantastic. Who watching?
We're going to get a lot of requests on that, I'm sure, then.
Yeah.
So, I mean, while we're on it.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, while we're on it, I mean, we're here doing this live. I mean, what do people think?
Exactly.
Should we do it? Shouldn't we do it? I mean,
great question.
It's not a done deal. So
no.
Well, I would take this opportunity to also say, please follow us on Facebook and Instagram. You know, we're trying to get our numbers up everywhere in social media too.
And also, thanks to all the people who have been so supportive. I mean, we've had a great response from the people who have been, you know, writing comments in general, and so it's been, you know, gives us fuel to keep going.
No question. Terry is asking for Freeway Jam and Young Man's Blues. So if you want to cover those, so
I want Terry to do Young Man's Blues.
I love my bet.
Drummer.
Yeah.
You know what would be interesting if we did like the Real Me and War Pigs, let's say. But like, how would Zeppelin actually play it? You know?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You know, if you play in the style of Bonham instead of Bill Ward and Keith Moon.
Yes.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, a little experiment, you know, could be good. It could be like shite. Who knows?
Well, it's true because I mean, some people say,
you know?
yeah, some people say that Zeppelin 1 is the greatest cover album of all time, right? I mean, it's there's a lot of covers on there, but it's in the Zeppelin arrangement, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely doesn't sound like the source material.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
Somebody asked if they could just show them the drum set a little more. Do you mind if I just do that real quick while Ivan lights up another cigarette?
Yeah.
I apologize for this.
Kids,
somebody asked if you rolled your own, and it is a
cigarette.
Yes,
I roll my own.
Yes, there you go.
You know, let's not forget, this is the Balkans. People smoke in churches here.
There you go.
So I'm good.
All right, so George, talk to us about what you're showing us here.
Well, you know, like I described, it's just this old Ludwig kit, thermogloss maple, 1971. Here's kind of a bird's eye view.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, and I got this cymbal recently. It's actually a concert cymbal. It's a Paiste 602 concert, but I think it sounds incredible. That's at Terry's suggestion. Terry loves those concert cymbals.
Yes.
These hats are basically like what you would have heard Bonham playing in 71. They're 602 Sound Edge 15s.
15s.
And this is the old Keystone badge. There it is. 6.5 by 14. It's a bit scratched up, but this is probably about 1968. So there's a baseball bat muffler.
Yes.
Bonham, by the way, drum nerds, Bonham always had his muffler on slightly to different degrees. Unless he was playing Moby Dick, you could see him turn it off. Yeah, he turned it off so the hands portion was more tone to the drum.
Yeah,
and that's about it.
It sounded like he had the muffling on. Someone's asking for more cowbell, George. So
more cowbell.
More cowbell.
Oh, somebody said drum solo.
I think
probably sounds like shit through the phone.
Yeah, I think the trouble is it'll clip the laptop or phone mic. So yeah. Somebody asked also thoughts for you guys on Coda, the album.
I love Coda because without it, we wouldn't have had Darlene. We wouldn't have had a lot of, those tracks that we had never heard before. I just think that I don't like the way a lot of the stuff was done post-production, like the adding of, more 80s sounding guitars. And
We're Gonna Groove is a good example of that.
Yeah. That's Royal Albert Hall 70, and they should just put that
for the life of me, I can't understand why he didn't just put that version out. Yeah.
Well, it might.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any kind of time there's a Zeppelin track, more.
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure there's too much left in the vaults, right? Jimmy has seemed to have remastered a lot of stuff, right?
Yeah, I think that there's not too much left in there. There's I think it would have come out already.
Right. Which is really fine because we've gotten enough. I'd like to see him play again, actually.
Well,
right? That would be the treat.
Yeah. Well, we're available if he needs a backup band.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah, right, Pete. But in that case, I'm out of a job.
No. I mean, we'll find room for you.
You got the coffee shop to.
I mean, after Black Black Crowes page, you could definitely.
That's right.
I change strings like no one else. I can be a Page guitar tech.
There you go. Yeah.
Did anyone see the video of Page playing Stairway to Heaven at the new show at the Metropolitan Museum of Art?
I didn't see it yet. I saw a few.
I gotta say, it's beautiful. It's even though he's probably not gonna play anytime soon a show. It was great just to see and hear him playing for whatever it was, 1 minute, 40 seconds.
Right. Yeah.
But I think he's pretty much done. But
yeah, I think he's retired. We haven't even gotten the annual I'm going to be playing this year statement. Yeah. So,
right.
Well, technically, he was seen playing in 2019.
Oh, that's right. He was seen
playing. That's true. Right.
Someone's going to lose some money on that.
Yeah, but that being said, I really respect what Robert Plant is doing with his solo stuff. And I think the band's great. I think the music's great. He's not diving into Zeppelin territory, really.
Right.
Saw him live, great. Yes. They actually played a few Zepp songs,
right?
Which I thought was sort of a little bit, I don't know how to say it in English, but fuck. Okay.
Yeah, just say it. Yeah.
Okay, so the audience likes it more because some people were expecting Zeppelin. I wasn't. I was expecting, Robert Plant stuff.
Right. Well, I would expect Jimmy Page even if it wasn't Zeppelin, but
you could put out an acoustic album. I'd be excited.
Sure.
But Plant, he's always experimenting. He keeps following his muse. He's like, he really exemplifies that. Him and Jones also. Jones is always doing something weird. But that
lame, Robbie. Thank you. Robbie said bit lame. Yeah. So.
But he just keeps following whatever he wants to do. He's not he's not putting out like the Great American Songbook or something like that. Some kind of cheesy cash-in thing. So
sure. And we're hoping that this is the year also, just like this is the year that Jimmy seemed to have played a minute and a half, this opera that John Paul Jones seems to have been working on for the last decade.
Keeps threatening to put on.
Right.
Yeah.
Hopefully that comes out as well, right? Wouldn't that be cool?
I'd like to hear that, just to see what he was up to with that.
No doubt, right? No doubt.
Yeah. I think all the hardcore fans are hoping that something live is going to come out of the vaults. And rest assured, there's plenty. I mean, there's no doubt that there's tons of.
To have all the Japan 71 stuff that's sitting there.
Not multi-tracks, but soundboard recordings, and they would be fine. With today's, technological capabilities to clean up sound.
Well, they could do what they did with the Beatles did at the Hollywood Bowl thing, where they have technology where you could split apart a mix and then put it back together. They had, and then got rid of all the crowd noise.
Right.
Young. I mean, there's so many guys who are reissuing or issuing live recordings that come off of a board and enhancing them with different sonic effects and EQ, and it would sound great.
Yep. No
I hope something comes out for this 50th, because otherwise
it's 51st and
yeah, pretty soon, right?
53rd anniversary release.
Yeah.
Pretty soon. Well, guys, I love geeking out with you guys and talking Zeppelin. You guys are fantastic musicians. Keep putting out the stuff that you are putting out. It's incredible. And play to your own tune and arrangement. It's absolutely great. Go and subscribe to the People's Front of Zeppelin channel on YouTube, and let's get Yvonne into the States, for God's sakes. I think we got $200 or $300 already on their Patreon page at People's Front of Zeppelin as well. What's that?
We'll start a GoFundMe.
There you go. Right? Exactly.
Just to be, I already have a visa.
Yes.
So
you're ready to go then. You just need the cash, right?
Pretty much. Yeah. I think that somebody said we're around 650 now.
Oh. That's what
might actually be enough if I'm lucky.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And Pete or George, Yvonne can stay with one of you guys while he's here, right?
Sure.
Split the time. No. Okay. Okay.
I don't want to stay with George.
I'm in the middle, so everybody has to converge here.
Right under.
I'll go to the museum and see the exhibit.
Here, there's a daybed right there under the song remains the same.
There you go. It's waiting.
Yeah, I'm pretty small. I can fit anywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Awesome.
I thought you were like 6'4".
Anything?
Oh, you would? Yeah.
Anything else? Surprised. Anything else you guys want to say before we wrap up this thing for today?
I can just say it. So thanks for this opportunity. It's good to be, to show our faces after a few videos. And this is just the beginning. We're gonna do a lot more great stuff. And we said a lot of things tonight. So yeah.
Hopefully we all get it all done. But what's nice about it is that once you do it, it's up there forever. Right. So just keep building it as we do and keep adding. It's going to be it's a fun project, and it's really enjoyable playing with these guys. We are playing together even though we're not in the same continent. Yeah. But I'm pretty lucky to have found these guys who are as into it, and we all have the same kind of idea about the whole thing, so it's great.
Yeah. There's definitely we're like-minded pretty much about every aspect of it. So the good thing is there's just three of us. If you throw a singer in, that's where it could get really, really dicey in terms of being in agreement all the time. But I think that's one of the things for me. A takeaway is that we always. I think there's not a whole lot. I mean, there's a healthy bit of I don't want to say disagreement, but we
workshop stuff. Yeah.
Commentary. Yeah. And revision.
Sure.
But by and large, I mean, this is exactly like what you guys are seeing with our recent videos is exactly what we want to do. Yep. It's just a matter of making it sound as spontaneous and real as possible, given the fact we're in 3 different locations and 2 different continents.
Right. Exactly. It's really
so. But thanks for having us on.
My pleasure.
Definitely.
My pleasure. This has been a blast. Thanks to everybody in the chat, and even if you're watching in the replay, ask your questions. We'll follow that along. Yvonne, Pete, and George, it's the People's Front of Zeppelin, folks. Go and subscribe to their YouTube channel. Thank you guys so much for being on Musicians on the Record today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Thanks for having us, David.
Absolutely. I'm going to play us out, and then we'll say goodbye on Skype. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Okay.
Fantastic, guys. Great job.